In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the levels of architectural understanding. And these are very important because they help explain why architectural thinking is so distinct from other forms of thinking like systems thinking or design thinking. Understanding is one of the fundamental factors in enterprise architecture, and the concept of levels of understanding is a key part of this factor. At the high level, there are 4 distinct levels of understanding, and they're shown in this diagram here. So there's the architectural level, which is at the highest level of understanding. This is followed by the solution or design level, then the development or implementation level, and finally the operational or systems level. Each level looks at the same things, but from a different perspective. So when we're looking at the architecture of the enterprise at the architectural level, we're looking at the enterprise, but we're focusing very much on how it's described architecturally. When we go down to the solution or design level, we're still looking at the enterprise, but we're looking at solutions that are designed to help the enterprise to carry out its business and to function effectively. Each of the levels requires a different type of thinking. There's a different way of thinking about the same thing from each of the different levels. And that's why the levels of understanding are so powerful as a concept in helping to see how enterprise architecture adds value to solution and design, to development and implementation, and to operations and systems. Thinking at the higher levels has an impact and an influence on the lower levels. So if we just started coding an application at the development level without thinking about the design of that application, we'd probably end up with a functional application, but it may not be as well designed, it may not be as easy to maintain in the future. And if we created that application without regard to the architectural level, then maybe that application would be good on its own, but it may not work effectively with the business processes, it may not give adequate support to business products, it may not support the concept of business rules or the parameterization of business rules from products and processes. So the higher levels of thinking can have a profound impact on how well we do the lower levels. So if we work our way down through these different levels, the architectural level, at that level we're looking at the components that make up the architecture, and we're focusing very much on the components, how they're configured, how they relate to another, how they work with one another from an architectural perspective. So we're looking at the fundamental architectural principles behind the configuration of the components. We're looking at how the architecture constrains the way in which the enterprise operates. We're looking at how the architecture enables the capabilities of the enterprise. When we come down to the solution or the design level, now what we're doing is saying to make this architecture a reality, we may need to either buy some off-the-shelf solutions or to design and create our own solutions. And so we need to go to another level of detail. Within the architectural context, now we can take individual components, and here we can do the detailed design for those individual components. So often the solution and design level is dealing with one domain rather than multiple domains. At the architectural level, we're dealing with all of the different domains simultaneously. So we're dealing with the application and the data and the business domains, but all together holistically. When we come to the solution or design level, now we're dealing just with one of those domains typically. So we're looking at the application and we're doing the detailed design for that application. And then when we drop down to the development or implementation level, Now what we're doing is taking that design to another stage. We're actually saying we've got the design, now we need to actually produce the code if we're talking of an application. Now we need to actually produce the business procedures or workflows if we're looking at the process. So we're taking the design and taking it down so we develop anything that we need to in order to implement it. And then we actually look at how it fits in with the existing components in the enterprise, and that's the implementation. And finally, when we get to the operational or systems level, now all of those components that we architected and then designed and developed and implemented, now they're functional, they're operational, and they're working together as part of a system. In this case, it's an enterprise. The enterprise is a system. And so we can look at how those components are working, and we can now see their behavior from a systems perspective.